Hello boys and girls, today we're going to learn about op art. So we've already looked at op art, or we will if we haven't yet. And op art stands for optical illusions, and it means that something appears a certain way, but in reality it's not. It's an optical illusion. It's tricking your eye. So in here, for example, it looks like these three spheres are popping off the paper, but they're flat. So we're going to learn how to create something like that. So op art was a style used in the 1960s where it was really popular. And as I said, it gives the illusion of something moving or popping off a paper by the use of pattern, color, or design. And these look really complicated, but the nice thing about op art is when you break it down, it's not as complicated. So you guys are all going to have a packet that we are going to be doing before we start the project. So the first thing you want to do is you are going to write your name on this packet so that I can grade it. Because if you don't have your name on there, well then, how am I going to know who it is? And then you're going to write the day that you have art there as well. So, the first page is just explaining op art. You don't need to do anything on this. Second page is telling you how to create the optical illusion here. So, it says step by step what you're going to do. Follow directions. If you forget what I said, no big deal. You can read it on here. So step 1, begin by placing a dot in the middle of the square and drawing lines out to the edge of the square from the dot. So how do you figure out what the middle is of the paper? You're going to have to measure. So you have 6 here, so halfway, or the middle, would be 3. Here we have 5, so half of 5 is 2.5. I'm lining it up to that 3 dot that I made. Dead center. There is my dot. Now, you need to use a ruler for this. You cannot freehand this. If you do not use a ruler, it won't turn out right. The more precise you are when you're creating op art, the better the illusion is going to be, which is why we need to use rulers. Okay, choose. Oh, I didn't do the half step. So I have the middle of the dot in the middle of the square, and then draw lines out of the edge to the other. So I'm going to do one diagonal this way. So I have one diagonal line. I'm going to go through that dot again in the center. I'm going to do a second diagonal line. Then I'm going to do a horizontal line. And last but not least, I'm going to do a vertical line. Okay, so now I'm ready for the next step. Step 2, choose every other section. Create 4 curved lines going from the middle. Okay, so here 1, 2, 3, 4. It's okay if they go off the paper like that. Now I'm going to line these curved lines up, like continuing my circle on the every other one. So I'm just pretending that these lines are continuing around. And then my curved one up at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, let's fix that one. Okay, and my last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. Now this doesn't have to be perfect, but you are getting graded on this. And it's worth a decent amount of points. So you want to make sure you're doing it right and taking your time. Okay, next step. Choose every other section, create 4 lines. Okay, I'm going to skip step 3. It's up to you how you do this, but I'm going to skip step 3 and I'm going to do the other way. So step 3, it says in the remaining sections, create 4 curved lines, but curved in the opposite direction. So I'm going to finish these. These are going to connect to those lines that you already have drawn on there. So I'm drawing it in the opposite direction. And this is where the illusion is going to start happening. I'm pressing really hard, but remember, you should be using your pencil lightly, so if you have to erase, your mistakes are going to show up if you do press hard like I am. Okay, so here I have my design done. Now what I'm going to do, which is step 3 and 5, is I'm going to color in every other curved line area with colored pencils. You don't have to use colored pencils. You can use pencils if you want. You can use markers. It does not matter, but you're going to color this in nicely. So I'm going to start with the first section that I did. So I'm going to do every other first, okay? So now I'm going to start coloring it and coloring nicely. Take your time. You don't want to be rushing. Now I'm going to skip my one section and go to the next one. So I'm going every other with coloring these in right now. You should not be scribbling on here because, as I said, this is a grade. And if you're scribbling, that means that you're rushing, and that will be points off. Okay, so now I have step 3 completed. So step 5 is to color in every other curved line with a different color. It doesn't matter if you don't use a different color. This is up to you. I'm going to use the same color. So you're doing the exact same thing that you did for step 3, which is why I just waited to do them together. And this is when the illusion is going to start happening. It's going to look like this is lifting off the paper. And the way you color it in also can make it look even more like that. Like I'm coloring in here with a more slanted line than I was over here. So if you look at the lines that I'm drawing there, it looks like it's almost pushing up off the paper. There we go. The illusion is now completed. So it sort of looks like this is popping up and that's popping down. Depending on how precise you are and how much time you take on this, the illusion will happen or it won't. Okay, now the second page is more difficult. You can do this in whatever order you would like to, but I'm just warning you that this page is more difficult. So you're going to start at step 1. Begin by making a circle in the medium box below. Now you could do this 2 ways. You could, 1, take a cup or something and trace around it and make a circle, or you can use a compass, which is this tool right here. A compass has a point here which is very sharp, so be careful. If I see you abusing this, you will be clipping down and you will never be using this again. I don't want you to hurt anybody or yourself with this, so this is a very sharp point. On the other end, it has a pencil or some lead. And what you're going to do, you're going to take this sharp point and put it where you want on the paper. So first, I think I'm going to do what I did on the last one. I'm going to find the middle of the page because I'm going to put my circle point, or the center of it, at the middle of the page. So I'm measuring half of that, which is right there. Halfway, that's my center line. So now I have my dot there. I'm going to take this circle, or the point part of it, and you can adjust how big you want to make your circle. And then you can either twist this around, or you can twist the paper around, whatever you find easier, and it will make your circle. Oh, sometimes it spreads out, so that's where I hold it because these are a little older, so I'm going to hold it down a little lower. There we go. Now there's my perfect circle. Don't press too hard with the center piece because that can sometimes rip a hole in the paper and we don't want that to happen. Okay, so here I followed step 1 and I have my circle in the middle of the box. I know it's a little hard to see, but bear with me. Step 2 is to draw a vertical and a horizontal line in the middle of the circle. Okay, so the dot that I have here in the center is what I can use to divide it perfectly. So I'm going to line up my ruler with that middle dot, and I am going to draw my vertical line and my horizontal one as well. Now, next step is draw 4 curved vertical lines in the circle. So if you are confused, you can look at the pictures up here, because not only does it tell you step by step, it shows you step by step. So if I'm confused, I can look right here. So I'm going to draw 4 of those lines, starting at the top of the circle and going to the bottom. 1, 2, and you want to make sure that they're meeting sort of at the top and the bottom, because that will create this effect. 3, I'm not going to squeeze 4 in, so I'm just going to do 3. Next step, step 4, is to create, oh wait, I forgot to, I'm still in step 3. I got to do that on the other side as well. So step 3, it also does it on the other side. So since I couldn't fit 4, I'm going to do 3 for the rest of this instead of 4. 2, 3. And I'm going to fix my lines there because they're a little crooked. Okay, step 4 now. I'm ready to create 4 horizontal lines in the circle. I'm doing this wrong actually. I just realized if I would have kept reading, I don't need 3 in each box. I just need 2. So I'm making this harder on me. I'm making it more curved. But make sure you don't make the same mistake that I just did. So I'm doing 2 curved in the bottom and 2 curved in the top. But since I already did 3, I'm going to continue with my 3. But you, if you read the directions correctly, only have to do 2. I'm making more coloring for me when it comes time for the optical illusion part. But it's pretty good. So now I'm going to move on to step 5. Behind the circle, create a checkerboard pattern by making even vertical and horizontal lines. So this is where I'm once again going to take my ruler, and I think I am going to, do I want to do every inch or every half inch? I'm going to do every inch. So every inch I'm going to mark all around. Actually, I started doing half inch. So I'm going to do every half inch all the way around. The smaller you make it, the longer it's going to take for you to color it in. Now I'm going to take the ruler and just push it down here below. And I'm going to make the same measurement marks that I did there. Anybody have any idea why I'm doing it on the top and the bottom? When I line it up, I'm going to have a perfectly straight line since I measured the same distance on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to connect all those lines, but first I'm going to go over to this side and do my measurements as well. You don't want to take your ruler when you're doing this, flip it the other way. And what I mean by that, if I'm measuring starting at 0 up here, and then I get to the other side, and I start measuring at 5, well, that's going to throw off my edge measurements, and it's not going to be straight. So if I'm measuring here, 0 up here, 0 should be moving over there. It shouldn't be changing it the other way, because that will mess up your measurements. And now I'm going to go through and connect all of these lines. Now the important part is when I get here to my circle or my sphere, I'm not going to draw those lines through it. I'm just going to draw them like they're disappearing behind it. Okay? So you're just going to skip drawing and connecting that part there through the sphere. Box in the circle and also in the background. I suggest that you start in one area and don't start moving around, because if I start moving around and coloring in here, then how do you know where your every other is if you started in one area? So this will take the longest time, but you're going to color in every other box. Like I said, I suggest that you start at one place first and then continue on through. So I'm going to start coloring on my background, and then I'll get to my sphere. Now I have the whole background done, and it's time for me to move on to the circle. You can start it wherever you want. Remember, you're going to have to do every other in there as well. And since I messed mine up, I might not have the easiest time coloring this in. But you don't want to skip around because you don't want to mess it up. And you also don't want to rush like what I'm doing and do not as good as a job because I started off doing nice up here, and then you see as I got down further, I wasn't doing as well. So you're going to finish coloring this all in, and it will start creating the effect of this circle popping off the paper. Now, if you wanted to have the effect of it popping off even more, what you could do is at the edges of the sphere, where the circle touches the back checkered round, you can make at the edge it really dark. Just where it's the colored part, so where you don't have it colored in and it's the white space, you're not going to do it there. But at the edges where you have the colored part in, you can make it a little darker at the edges to create the popping effect, like it's coming off the paper even more. I would suggest after doing this all in pencil, like I'm doing, that you instead decide to choose markers or crayons, because pencils are just taking way too long, and I don't want you guys to be wasting your time on this when we still have our final project to do. Okay, so I didn't do the best job at this, but that is what you're going to do when you're completely done with it. Make sure your name is on it and put it in my gravy bin.